All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We have Victoria with us today. She is a spiritual empowerment coach and a psychic medium. We're here to talk about all things spirituality, mediumship, money, taboos. So I'm so excited to have you on. I'm so excited for this juicy conversation. How are you doing today? And would love for you to just introduce yourself.
Hello. Oh my God, Tiffany, I'm so excited to be here to talk about all of this taboo and juiciness. So,
Yes.
yeah, my name is Victoria. I'm a psychic medium, a spiritual empowerment coach. I went through what you would call the major spiritual awakening. Usually we have at least one or a few of these during our
Yes.
lifetime. And this happened when I was 33 years old after my second child, Christian, ironically. It was his name, and it is his name. It was born, and I started seeing spirit, and I went from being in scarcity, from being broke, barely making like ends meet with having my trade as a hairdresser and my husband as an electrician, and decided to change my life around and go into this path of consciousness, spirituality, and started creating massive amounts of wealth, impact, and mediumship courses, and you name it. So that's kind of what happened.
I love that. So tell me a little more about when you first realized your psychic mediumship gifts. Like, what exactly did that feel like? Or like what was that experience for you when you were like, oh shit, I might have something here.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit dark, it was a little bit shadowy, and I wasn't sure if I was like depressed going down this kind of like, oh my God, what is happening? Like a breakdown energy. I was exhausted. I had two children that didn't sleep. I was trying to make the ends meet. My
Mm.
relationship was full of stress because as soon as my husband finished work, I was going to work downstairs in my hair salon. And it was literally uncomfortable. It was a stretch, and I was being called for more, but I had no idea what that was because I'd been brought up Catholic. So I didn't know anything about the
Ah.
chakra system, or I knew a little bit about mediumship because my great grandmother could see spirit, hear spirit, and there's been lots of stories that always went through the families of my family being super in tune, but it was something that we weren't allowed to look into, to dabble, never allowed to go into crystal shops and whatnot. So I was kind of walking in the dark, and it got to the point where I said, no more, I'm done. Because I was seeing things like in my mind's eye. I had my ears popping all the time. I couldn't sleep. The mind chatter was crazy. The tinnitus. I don't even know how you say that, but in the ear, that
Yeah, I
squealing.
get that a lot too.
Oh, that was like non-stop. Like I was like, it was painful. So I got to this point where I was like, no more. And I knew I had to make a decision to either go down one path, which is the insanity kind of path of like, hey, I need some help. Because the minute you start telling doctors this type of stuff, they ain't going to say, oh, you're a psychic medium, love. They're going to say, let's put you on this. Yeah. It was so, and then I was like, well, I
For
don't want to do
real.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do I do this or do I go down this path, take a leap of faith and go start researching what the fuck, excuse my language, is going on with me?
Please.
So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I got a blank piece of paper out and I wrote down, what do I know to be true that I haven't been told? First thing I
Mm.
wrote down was Jesus. And then I went, oh my God, how do I know? How do I know Jesus is real? So I scribbled it off. And I realized as I look at this blank piece of paper, I know absolutely nothing that I haven't been told or programmed or literally, you know, told that I have to believe. So I started at absolutely square one and I said, guides, angels, God, if you exist, please show me. And then step by step by step, I start seeing and receiving, and I start getting myself out of this dark hole. I can see this tiny bit of light, like tiny bit, like it was like a tiny flicker, and I just kept following that, following my gut, and of course, signs and synchronicities and people and situations started showing up for me. Coaches, I didn't know what a coach was. And then this coach appeared, and I just went down this rabbit hole of doing a whole lot of work on myself. And my whole world has completely changed. So that's how it began. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I was touched by the light and now I'm enlightened. It was messy. It was unsexy. I went down the human design route that kind of found me, and layer by layer by layer by layer by layer by layer, I've
Yeah.
invested the time and money and ah, time, a lot of time into me, which again, there's a whole lot of shame and guilt around that being a mama, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, that's like the very short version. And now I'm like, I know how to work through the things because life doesn't, it does get easier, but it doesn't mean we don't get challenges because they're
Yeah.
continuous challenges.
Yeah, wow. I just got chills the entire time you were speaking. And I resonate with your story a lot. I was not raised Catholic, but Christian, but it was very rules and it felt very oppressive to me. It felt like I had to be this good girl or I would be punished by God, by this punishing God that just wanted to keep me in line, kept keeping me away from all the things I wanted to explore, right? Like all the things I wanted to do. And it felt so limiting. And I also went through a lot of spiritual awakenings actually after I started my business and realizing like, oh, now it's been a journey. It's been a true journey of like, well, there are still things about my Christian faith that I still believe. And there are these new truths from spirituality and more of an open-minded, really, like just an open-minded view of like energy and understanding the universe and having my guides speak to me and having all these signs and synchronicities, right? And like all your like the ears and the all the things like and just feeling this deep sense of knowing that I never felt like I would have. And yeah, it's so interesting. I'd love to hear your take on like dogmatic religion and spirituality and where we've kind of gotten it wrong as a society. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your
Oh,
opinions.
that's such a good question. I love this because, what was really popping through then was the second part of the story was if I don't know if Jesus is real, which is the whole crucifix, and Jesus was always, even the word Jesus was always my sign that everything was okay, then
Yeah.
what am I without this faith? What am I? Like, I love the Virgin Mary. I love Mary Magdalene. These are my guides. I love church. I love the silence and the quiet and the
Yes.
prayer and the communion. Like,
The
literally, the
worship.
communion. I
Yeah.
love it.
All
So
of it.
I felt
Yeah.
like I was dying. I really felt
Mm.
like it was an ego death. But at the same time, I got really angry that I've been lied to. Like, what is real? What is the point? Oh my God, does heaven even exist? You know, so here I am, like my children are christened, and I told my husband when I get married, it's in a Catholic church. So we had the full Catholic church, wedding, all
Yeah.
the things. But what I explored and discovered as I was carrying forward was Jesus is real to me. A lot of the Christian traits or whatever, lack of wording there, is definitely real for me. I work with a Christ consciousness with, like I say, the Marys, Mary Salome, Mary Magdalene. I'm a multi-dimensional medium, a galactic starseed goddess. I can be it all, and that is the thing. I'm allowed to be it all. So what I
Yeah.
noticed was when I came into the spiritual realm, like so I started like going, oh my gosh, Jesus is popping up when I'm a Reiki master. So in my visualizations, meditations, Jesus is there. I'm like, why the hell is Jesus in here? And I said to my Reiki master, why is Jesus Christ in my Reiki? And she said, because of course, Reiki is source and Jesus is an ascended master. And I was like, holy shit, does this come into spirituality? Like, I was kind of confused because spirituality is wholeness, it is everything, it's oneness,
Yeah.
it's consciousness. And I noticed that when I started researching what is spiritual practices and da da da, there was a lot of Christianity, religion, and there's a lot of shaming. I get people, churchgoers and Christians, that come work with me all the time, and I'm a medium. I say, hey, I'm not a Christian. I don't want to put any label on myself.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word spiritual, like a spiritual empowerment coach. I say that so people understand what I do, but I don't
Right.
really want labels. I am.
Yes. Amen.
So yeah. So like the long story short is I literally was like, there is dogma and in these spiritual spaces as well. So I joined a consciousness movement group. I won't say what the name of it was. I really realized later on, a few years later, it was actually a cult. They don't. No cult ever says they're a cult. Okay, no cult ever says. They always say a movement. Like
Yeah.
there is movements, obviously, but it was like a cult,
Yeah.
and they were anti religion, and they were kind of like them and us. So there's so
Mhm.
many nuances. So what I do is I actually say to people, like, it doesn't matter if you're religious or spiritual, or if you are in the spiritual communities. If there is a this and them and us, sorry, them and
Yeah.
us, or I am right and you are wrong, that's like the dogma, right? So that is like the
Yeah.
anything that limits you to make you separate from, like, I will talk to anyone. I have my like step basically my mother-in-law, my stepmother-in-law, she's like full-blown Christian. And I have these incredible conversations with her, and she believes that God is separate from her, and so are the angels. And I'm like, that's really interesting because I believe that I'm a part of that. You're very humble. You think
Yeah.
it's separate. I think I am God in a sense.
Yes.
Um, and I believe that I can talk to angels and spirit. Well, I know I can because I'm a psychic medium and they come to me
Yeah.
as a multidimensional being.
Right.
But having open conversations with all faiths, as long as the person is open, she's not wrong. I'm not wrong. We just have different beliefs because there's more than one belief that's real. It's not one, it's not them and us. So that's how I
Right.
see it. Anyone that says I'm right and you are wrong is limited. There's a layer of unconsciousness and rules.
Mm.
Even in human design, I love human design, but I
Yes.
can see people go, well, you're a projector, so you are A, B, and C. You're a Virgo, you are A, B, and C. And I'm like, I defy the
Yeah.
odds of all of those things that you just said. I'm not
Right.
those things. That there is a system, and I will work with it, and then I will escape it and expand beyond it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I resonate with everything you said. And I feel like, yeah, because I was raised so, religious growing up with all of the oppression, the rules, when I left the church, I was like, I don't want anything to do with any of this. I don't want to, I don't want to hear the name Jesus or read the Bible. Like, I just stopped doing all of that. And then I feel like I went so far into spirituality and realize like there's oppression and limits in that as well, right? And I totally agree with what you said on like not wanting labels because then it's like we're still just trying to categorize ourselves. We're still trying to put ourselves into these boxes when we don't fit into any of these boxes. And I loved what you said about like the wholeness, we're all one. At the end of the day, we are all one. Everything is just a mirror and a reflection of us. Like we came to Earth, we chose these human flesh suits, right? We chose our families, we chose this life. And it's like the more that we can, or the quicker that we can realize that and realize that everything's connected and we're all connected, the more beautiful it gets to be, right? And now I feel like I've kind of swung from one end to the pendulum to the other. And then now I'm in this middle. It was kind of like when I was overworking and hustling and burning myself out, and then going all the way to the relaxed feminine and then not getting anything done and then finding the sacred union, right? Like, okay, here's my sacred, sexy structure, and here is where I get to make it my own, essentially, which
Yeah, a
I
thousand percent.
love.
And
Yeah,
if you're going too far one way or the other and you're feeling a charge, like you're feeling there's a difference between awareness and judgment. And this is what I teach in my communities is like judgment has a charge to it. So
mm,
an awareness is just an awareness. Like you have an awareness, that's not for me. Sweet as. I don't need
yeah,
to judge those people.
right.
It's really fascinating. But I did the same. I went from like, if you, like I'm so angry no one
Yeah,
understands me. I'm the black sheep, like type of energy to like,
right.
hang on, there's a bit of charge and anger here. And then falling into this kind of cult mentality of like, we talk in our own lingo. And this is how the world really works. And we are kind of
Yeah,
superior. And this real energy of this I didn't realize they were a cult until because you don't at the beginning until you
yeah.
start getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And one of my friends at the top, one of the who works with the leaders, she literally wanted to leave and she had to spend 2 years like with her family, with her children and her husband trying to escape this because they bring you in all areas and then they drop you out. So it's like religion like how I was brought up is kind of like you just don't go to church anymore. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, they might judge you or talk behind your back, but like you've got to be careful when people are using the word spirituality and consciousness, because sometimes the movements aren't conscious, they're for money. And
Mm.
it's really fascinating. So I'm so grateful that I get to go and experience. I like to experience things to the extremes, so I do. And then I look at it and I go, wow. I'm so glad I can see that for what it is now. And
Yeah.
I love what you said about coming back into that middle. What is healthy? And it's
Mm.
all about us as an individual. What resonates with me? If church
Yeah.
resonates with you, good for you. Because my church is the beach, right? My church is my temple,
Yeah.
and that's cool. And I love church. I just love the statues and the energy and the Our Father and the Hail Mary. But don't tell me to obey my husband because that's just
Right.
fucking ridiculous. Like I make my own
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like that's very much like throughout the past couple years, right? That's like very much where I've gone where it's like, yeah, now I get to have this relationship with Jesus, but I also don't have to go to church every single Sunday and read the Bible every single morning. I get to really step into a level of spirituality that isn't rules, that isn't like, oh, if you don't do this, then you are not a quote unquote good Christian, right? And I think like just what you said about like, different types of conscious movements and groups being about whether it's greed, power, money, right? We see the same thing within churches and different organizations, right? Like even outside of the religious areas, right? But I feel like yeah, like we can really take it as humans, interpret it in so many different ways and make it so self-serving. Or, right, like someone can go to an ayahuasca retreat and also do Reiki, right? I'm also a Reiki practitioner and also worship on Sundays, right? And they don't have to be locked in by a label or like you only read tarot cards and you have crystals, right? And you do full moon ceremonies or you go to church and Bible study with women in a small group inside a church, right? It's like it doesn't have to be either or. We can hold multiple truths and we can hold multiple beliefs all at the same time, and it gets to be okay.
It's whatever you want it to be, and we're not. I was a hairdresser for 20 years, and one of my mentors, he was actually kind of a spiritual mentor because he was a deacon and he married my husband and I and all these things. And he was also a hairdresser, and he said to me one day when I was 15 and I wanted to be a hairdresser, he said, "Victoria, do you think a monkey can cut hair?" And I said, "I don't know, no." And he said, "A monkey can cut hair, but every single haircut would be exactly the same." And that's the difference between a human. We are not meant to be boxed into systems. And that's why, even when I see human design or spirituality, so my whole thing is mediumship, bringing mediumship into the norm because everyone is a
Yeah,
medium. And I do talk about chakra system, but that also is a system. And what I
right.
see when I'm working with people is I see portals and I do soul retrievals, implant removals, work with extraterrestrials, works with the goddess and work with coding and there's light language and it's like really quantum and galactic and crazy like crazy cool.
Yeah.
But then there's also like I always have my little statues of Mary because she was the one who kept me going and Jesus was the one who guided me. And I was like, if you guys are these guides for me, then why the hell do I feel like shit about myself and feel guilty?
Yeah.
Because I'm a very explorer, and
Yeah.
I've done a lot of stuff which would have been, I mean, you can't tell a baby that they're a sinner the moment they're born. Like, I just think
Yeah.
that's my point of view, of course. They are perfect. They are perfect. They're
Yeah.
not born a sinner. We are perfect. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, we can do bad things and shitty things that we need to forgive ourselves from. But when I'm telling the priest the stuff that I've done and he says, do 5 Hail Marys and you're forgiven, and I still feel like shit because we shouldn't be bypassing, we should be feeling. So
Yeah.
I love the
Exactly.
priests and the deacons and the bishops. I've sat at tables with all of them. They're great people, but when we look at the overall system, when we look at mediumship and spirituality, and I love what you say, you can have it all. You can go to church because you love That energy, you
Hmm.
can go do a chakra balancing, go to a Reiki session, do a mediumship, bring out your tarot. It's all about intention and love and
Yeah.
sovereignty. And I mean, it's at the end of the day, if you're leading with love, this is what I came right down to the little point was if I'm doing this from love, then how the heck can I get that wrong? Full
Yeah.
stop.
Exactly. Exactly. And I would say, like, people could look at us and be like, well, that's not religion or that's not Christianity and whatnot, right? Based on
Yep.
their own limitations and rules. But at the same time, it's like they're going at it with such a, or like people who are like, oh, well, only certain groups of people can come to church, right? But if you're gay, right? If you do this and that, if this is your career, right? If you dress a certain way, if you behave this way, right? It's like then you're not allowed, right? I think those the people, it's like it's completely the opposite of how Jesus would have acted, right? Like
1000%.
Jesus was filled with love and he loved everybody and all people and he let everyone, come into his spaces. And so, yeah, I think this is so good. It's such a good conversation. And I think it's so important that we sit and really identify. I mean, for me, it took years. I'm still like continuing to unfold all of this because I feel like it does impact the way that we show up in our businesses with money, with the way that we receive and attract money or invest money, right? As well as like how like we're both mothers, right? The way that we want to raise our kids and teach them about energy and the way that they show up in the world. And yeah, I think that this like our view of spirituality, of energy, of the universe, of our connection with the beyond impacts every single area of our life.
Every single area. Because if you've got a shitty relationship, or you've got money issues, or insecurities and worthiness issues with your body, that's going to leak out everywhere. And we're not taught about energy leaks, and we're not taught about discernment. We're taught
Yeah.
judgment, and that there's when we're looking through the matrix, when we're looking through what is the truth, and that's what I did at the very beginning. I said, show me the truth. I'm here for
Hmm.
it, even if it hurts, even if I've got to pretty much go to hell and back, to
Yeah.
see me. I'm gonna do it. I need to
Yeah.
see myself, and I know that's going to be really shadowy and unsexy and hard. And one of the things my guides told me, which my higher self coming through, was like, if this was real, if this religion was legit, if you will, if it was foolproof, um,
Yeah.
then your nieces and nephews who have not been baptized may not make it to heaven.
Yeah.
And I looked at my nieces, my daughters, I mean, sorry, my sisters, girls, so they're like
Yeah.
kids to
Yeah.
me. And I looked
Right.
at my nephews, and I wanted to cry, and I was like, so what makes my children better than these children who are innocent and perfect? And I went,
Hmm.
that is a lie. That is not
Yeah.
true, because God shouldn't be all fearing God. It should
Yeah.
be, I see God as everything, as oneness, not as a man, not as an entity, but as a one. That's my personal. Everyone has their own different take and perspective. That's
Yeah.
how I see God. And I couldn't use the word God for about 5 years because I was too
Yeah.
triggered. I'd say
Same.
universe. I was just
Same.
like, don't use the word God around me. So now I say creator,
Yes.
universe. Now I say God as well.
Yeah.
I just say
Yeah.
everyone else can
Same.
take their own take on that. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just because my children were baptized, or what about my sister who fell pregnant and she didn't have a baby daddy, like because he was a dick, so she had to get rid of him, like he was a really not a good person. So like,
Yeah.
what was she meant to just put up with that? Like, or what about my sister who had children before she got married? So then it started going, this it just really doesn't make sense. What about my friends that have
Yeah.
had abortions, or what about people
Mhm.
that come to me that have lost their lives due to suicide? And are they in hell? No, they're not. So I got
Yeah.
evidence after evidence after evidence. So I was angry for a while, but then I started going, mediumship is for everybody, money is for everybody, wealth is for everybody, health is for everybody, positivity is for
Yeah.
everybody. Oh my gosh, we're all worthy.
Yes, Exactly. Exactly. I shared something very similar on my stories yesterday where I was talking about how in business and in like marketing and entrepreneurship, it's very much the same way, right? We feel like we're missing something. We feel like we need to fix something. We're told by all these gurus that something's missing. We need to fix it. We need to buy this strategy. We're just missing this 5 step framework or this 50 step launch plan in order for us to be successful, right? And it's like, what if it all comes down to just loving ourselves deeper right where we are, being in deeper alignment with what we want to create, right? Still looking at things from curiosity, evaluation, experimentation, right? You want to play, you want to see what works for you. But at the same time, it's like, we don't have to look at it as like there's something wrong with us. And I think that's a beautiful translated example here is like when we're taught growing up from religion or family or society, especially as women, right? All these stories about how we need to be and how we need to gain love. And oh, if I bring home an A+, my dad is gonna be, a lot more like praise me so much more and I'm going to feel so much more love, right, from my family. But then if I don't bring home a good grade, if I don't bring home the first place medal, or if I, do something bad, if I make a mistake, is that going to cost me this love from my family? Is this going to cost me my worthiness as a human being? Right. I think a lot of us end up going into entrepreneurship just replacing grades and praise and reassurance and validation with sales and clients, right? And growing. And then we like make money mean all these different things about us, right? We make it mean that we are or we make it mean that we are worthy because we have money, but then if we don't have money, we're not worthy, right? Or money gives us safety, but without money, we're not safe, right? So it's like all of these different ideals, all of these different ways that we place meaning into things. I think a big takeaway from this episode for all the people who are listening too is like, what is your intention going into this, right? Because just like magic and, casting spells and also prayer and worship on a Sunday morning, what is your innate heart intention, right? What is the intention of your heart, right? What outcome do you desire? Like, how are you leading going into this? Is it heart centered, or is it because someone told you this is the only way, right? And challenging that, right? Who does it serve if someone's telling you that you have to, be a virgin until you're married and that somehow is going to make you a more worthy woman? It doesn't, right? It just makes us disempowered and it keeps us small, right? It keeps us limited. It keeps us like misinformed, truly. Like that's what taboos do. And something I talk a lot about with my students is taboo alchemy, right? Shifting something that is a taboo, that is known as a taboo, and owning it, right? You take the charge out of it when you just say like, hey, this is who I am. I'm owning this. This is my power. Right. I remember being in such a victim story when I was a teen single mom and living off of food stamps, living off of government assistance, being like in the negatives in my bank account, and letting that be my story of victimhood, of why I was so limited and so oppressed, and why this could never work. I could never buy a house. I could never have, $1 million business. I mean, at that point, it was like even just like a 6 figure business, right? Or in general, 6 figures, all of these things, until I was like, wait, look at what I've overcome. Look at who I was. Look at what I was able to bring myself out of, right? Really owning what could have been a really something that kept me disempowered for a lot longer, you know?
Yeah, and that's that we
Um,
all have a story. And people get stuck in their stories. And yeah, some people being a single mom and living off food stamps, or being someone who had a narcissistic father or was abused from when they were a child, or being brought up in poverty, or whatever the story is, when you have that moment of, oh fuck, I actually have a choice. And,
yeah.
I had that moment because I don't have a story that is, I can say, yeah, I was like suicidal and I was at the end of my tether and I thought I was going crazy and I went and asked for medication. I can tell that story. But when we make it our story, it's great for educational purposes, but when we make it our story and go, well, I don't have the time and I don't have the money to invest in this and that. Now I say, please don't leave my membership because, or whatever, or say no to me because you say, oh, I'm going to wait for my guides to bring me the money, or I don't have the money, because that is not true. It's because you're not choosing it. So the minute you step up and say, you know what, I'm not actually choosing to go to that event in Denver because it's no, I'm not choosing to do that right now because I feel too push right now. I will do that I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Just being really, really truthful, or saying, yeah, no, thank you. I'm not, I don't want to go out for a coffee date with you. I just want to stay at home. Or like I have these friends around me, that are really, really high vibe and real and raw and honest. And I like
Mm.
that. I like to say, you know what, I'm due for my bleed and I'm feeling a little bit frustrated.
Yeah.
But when people go, oh, poor me, it's because of my dad, or it's because I was a single
Yeah.
mum, I'm like, cool story, bro. But what do you want your future self to say? So,
Right.
like, what I've been able to do, and I'm sure it's exactly the same for you, Tiffany, is I've been able to go,
Yeah.
like, in the last 2 years, I've been able to manifest, or the last 4 years, go from $30,000 a year as a hairdresser, working my ass off in between children, working downstairs late at night, fighting with my husband. He's always working, just trying to make ends meet, to making a multiple six-figure business. This is our 4th year in a row of making the multiple six figures and serving people from all around the world. My husband works for me, or we work together. I said to him, I'm going to make a choice. And what I did was I said, are you going to start a business or am I? Because this is ridiculous and there's another way I can see it. And he goes, meh. And I said, I'm doing it. That's it. I'm doing it. I'm going all out. And how does this feel for you?
Yeah.
What if I bought you a truck? What if we moved to the beach? What if we had a view of the ocean? And I mean, from where we were, that was not possible. We couldn't go from a
Yeah.
$300,000 house to $1 million house. Like it wasn't possible. And Luke said, I'm in, let's go. And we literally quit our jobs. We had $16,000
Oh
US,
my
New
gosh.
Zealand, which is about 10,000 USD, after
Uh-huh.
selling a house and doing all these things. And we had to live off that with our children. And we had basically 3 months to make our business work because we had a big mortgage. We just
Oh
built
my
a house.
gosh.
So we'd done step by step by step in a
Yeah.
linear fashion, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't fast enough. And I was getting frustrated.
Uh-huh.
So I just dived straight in and I started creating and showing up and sharing and being raw and being real. And that story of what I had been, I got bored of myself. And I get bored when people are telling me their excuses of why they're not showing up because I'm a real, like, kick ass, very, very straight up projector Virgo. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
You want change, take some action, even if it's uncomfortable. So when people get stuck in their story rather than using it for storytelling, like you just said, I'm like, oh my God, I want to
Mm.
know more about you. Holy shit, how did you get through that? This is so
Hmm.
fascinating. um like when people are so stuck in their story of why they're sick or why their relationships like this or why they're addicted, or like, I'm really straight up and I'm like, it's because you fucking love it. It's because you're getting
Yeah.
off on it, existential kink. You're getting off
Yep.
on your story because it's stopping you from going out and making money because you're afraid if you make money, your life is going to change. You're going to have to expand and you may not want to do the work. Fear of success
Yeah.
is a thing.
Oh, mic drop. That was so good. Exactly. Also, if anyone has not read Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott, go and buy it right now. It is an amazing book. And I use the EK method a lot, especially when it comes to business. And I feel like I essentially, without knowing the method, was kind of what I snapped myself out of because not only was I living in like literal poverty and just like not being able to like literally barely could put food on the table, right? Like it was making barely any money. It was really relying on like borrowing money and barely getting by, going to sleep hungry. Um
Oh, wow.
to yeah, to like building this now seven-figure business, right?
Ah!
Which is
What the
crazy, right? Like that
fuck?
is possible, but it wouldn't have been possible if I kept telling myself and staying in that story, right? I was also in an abusive relationship cycle where we'd break up and get back together and break up, and we knew it wasn't going to work out. We knew we weren't each other's person, but for the convenience, for the comfort, for the coziness, for the familiarity, because we had a daughter together, right? It was like that was also something I broke out of and realized, oh my gosh, I like this. I like the high highs and low lows and the spiked cortisol levels and the adrenaline and the oxytocin that it releases in my body. Like, is he going to reach out to me? Is he going to come over? Is he going to text me? Right. And it was just this level of inconsistency, which I've definitely had to like re regulate my nervous system to now be turned on by consistency and safety because I'm starting to date again and going on dates. And it's been, yeah, it's been a journey. But yeah, it's like what are you like if you're listening to this, right? And you really want to integrate this into your body, like what stories are you telling yourself? What are you continuing to perpetuate? And we know you're not doing this consciously. We would never choose
Yeah.
this consciously.
And
Oh,
we do
I
this all the
love.
time. Like
Yeah.
there's always another kink. Like I was on the beach and I laughed so hard when I was doing the EK method a couple of years ago, walking on the
Uh-huh.
beach, and I was like, why the hell was I so broke? Why was I so poor? I always had money for a bowl of wine or a packet of cigarettes or whatever, right? My whole life, prior to children, but wine after children as well. And then like I'm walking along and then I was like, I could never afford to go to 30th, 21st, weddings, weekends
Mm,
away. I couldn't travel. I missed out on life because I was poor. And I was like, hang on, I was a full-time hairdresser. My husband's a full-time electrician. We had normal jobs. How come I was so broke? And then I
yeah.
laughed because I kept myself broke because I was so exhausted. Being a projector, I don't have any motors. So literally, I know that sounds like a bit of an excuse, but I was so exhausted after the 40-hour work week of talking and
Mm,
hairdressing and being
yeah.
high and staying high vibration. All I wanted to do was sleep. I was so exhausted. I don't want to go to the 21st, the 30th, the weddings or
Yeah.
travel. So I always had an
Oh my
excuse. I'm
gosh.
sorry, I can't afford it. I'm too broke. And then when I realized I literally was cry laughing walking on the beach because I was like, I totally kept myself poor.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose to stay safe because I was so fucking exhausted. So now I work a few
Yeah.
hours a day. I have a team that works for me full time, and I literally will do one or two calls a day and receive money. And I can say no, no, I
Mm.
don't want to come to your birthday party. Sorry. No, I don't want to do that. No, I go to the pub. No, thank you. I'd rather die. Like, I'm really honest, and my friends around me are like, you are just so awesome and straight up. And what do you want to do? Where my old friends would be like, you're such a nana. Why do you have to go to bed early? And I was so tired. I burnt out
Yeah.
over and over and over again. So the
Oh,
kink for me with being broke was to keep me safe from actually living a life.
yeah. Oh, that's so good. And I love that you piece that together and you're just like laughing and crying and you're just like, oh my God. 'Cause I know exactly what that's like too. And that was pretty much the story for me too. It was like I didn't want to have to do all of this extra work, or I didn't think that I had what it took, right? I was just like, this isn't for me, all these stories. But then also it took the same amount of energy, if not more, to keep myself disempowered and and oppressed and restricted in that life. So yeah, that's so beautiful. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your expansion and relationship with money as you have also kind of grown, and we'll kind of wrap up after that as well, and we'll share how to stay connected with you. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your connection relationship to money, spiritual wealth, expansion.
Yeah, so I love talking about money because money is wealth is in all areas. And
Mhm.
when I first heard Amanda Francis talking, I was kind of a little bit blown
Love
away.
her.
So, oh my gosh, she's so good. And
Yeah.
I was watching one of her YouTube videos and she was just basically energy clearing by talking through things. And she's on her
Yeah.
bed, this like pretty blonde chick who's very like so casual in the
Yeah.
way she talks. She's kind of like, I
Yes.
love it a bit, but she's also, and she's got this twang. I mean, I'm New Zealander, so to me, I can hear, the American accent really
No, I
strong.
can hear it too.
And I was like, she's got this twang. She's pretty. She's interesting. She's
Yeah.
clever. Like, what is she doing? She's alchemizing like energy right now, like, and clearing it. So I listened to her, and I was like, I just noticed something there. So what I started doing is I started realizing that I can love money, and money is a relationship. So
Yeah.
I have a relationship with money, and I don't like it because money put alcohol into the hands of my father. So my dad wasn't home on a
Mm,
Friday night, or
yeah.
money made my mum cry because she was freaking out about birthday presents, or I wasn't brought up in a very wealthy home. We had lots of children, lots of love. I'm the oldest of
Yeah.
five, but we had the beach and we had dogs and all sorts of things. It was amazing. But my dad, he would go disappear for a day or two, and I was like, how come you would give him money, when we need food or whatever? We didn't go without, but I realized that I didn't like it and I used to throw it away. So as soon as I got my paycheck, I would go to farmers. I don't know if you guys have farmers, but it's kind of like you
Mm.
know, it's a where they sell everything from clothes to earrings to hats to whatever. It's just like a big Kmart energy. And I would just go buy all the bargains and squirrel things away for Christmas and then just give it out to people. I just made sure there was no money left in my bank account. I love spending all my money. And then I
Yeah.
started changing my mindset and said, but what if I could love it? Like literally, what if I could love it? What if I could start gathering it? So every time I did this little game, and every time I found 20 cents or $1 or $5, I'd say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Please multiply by
Mm,
10. Thank you, thank you, thank you. More, more, more. And I was like, bring
yeah.
it in. And now, of course, we bring sacred sexuality into that and turn on and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But I was just doing this thing and I'd put it in my drawer. And eventually, I had thousands of dollars in my drawer. And I was like, there's something to this. And I did the same thing with my kids. I was like, let's make lots of money. Come on, guys. And I started playing with them, and my
Oh,
children end up with bags of money. And I was like,
wow.
why are we getting so much money? Cash money. And then I'd say, dear universe, bring me some cash, because it's all very nice getting paid on PayPal, but bring me some cash. And the next minute, a client showed up, and she was like, here is like, I don't know, like $4,000 towards our coaching container. I'll pay the other half online. I'm like, thank you.
Oh my
And I started
gosh.
like just really playing with the energy, even with material things. My daughter really wanted some cowboy boots, and they were like $200. And I was like, what? And she said, Mummy, can I have these boots? And she's like 6 years old. And I'm like, well, how are you going to get the money for them? And she said, well, I get my money from you. And I said, but how am I going to get the money from them? And she said, I don't know. And I said, well, how can you help me to get the money so then I can give you the money? And I said, ask the angels. So she's like, angels. And she did this whole thing in the car. And then literally, this is when I was still hairdressing part-time to pay for my coaching as I was transitioning type of thing
Yeah.
before I fully quit. And the lady who worked in the shop where the boots were, she was one of my hairdressing clients. She rings me up and said, I can get them for you for like cost price or whatever, wholesale price. And maybe we could just do a swap so you can do my hair. So there was no money that needed to be exchanged.
Oh my
And I was like,
gosh.
okay. And then I was like, maybe I could get a pair of boots. What if I could get a pair of cowboy boots? Mine were $400. These are
Uh-huh.
real leather, real cowboy
Yeah.
boots. I was like, what if I could get them? I kept playing with it. I ended up getting both pairs of boots. I didn't have to pay any money. I just did her hair and plus gave her a couple of products. Like, I don't even know how that happened. I still have those boots. That was like 5 years ago,
Wow.
or longer actually. I wear those boots like at least once a month. I love my cowgirl hats and my boots. I live at the beach. I'm kind of weird. And I really realize that if my children want anything, or if I want anything, I can just ask. Here's the thing though, you ask the universe to bring you the money, but sometimes the money comes in the form of an idea. So you don't sit on your couch, just
Yeah.
sometimes the money just comes and
Right.
it's really, really easy. But I had to take a
Yeah.
couple of actions. I had to do her hair. Obviously, I
Hmm.
had to have that conversation. So I really don't like it when people say, I'm waiting for my guys to bring me the money to work with you. I'm like, well, that's never going to happen, because you can wait for the golden nuggets, but you're going to have to take the action, or
Exactly.
feminine or masculine or whatever you need to do to receive the inner work. So it's
Yeah.
it's being the main guide in your life. So yeah, that's what I've taught my
Right.
children with their mastery of money. And if I ever want
So
money, I
good.
start doing it again. I'm like, hey, I need some cash. And I'll open up a bag and I'll be like, oh, there's cash in the bag.
I
from
love
5
that
years ago.
so much. And I mean,
Mm,
look at how we're now teaching our children about money, right? We're breaking the cycle of like never enough scarcity, right? Like I grew up with my parents like having money like they all it was never a like huge issue, but it was still like, oh, that's too expensive or we're not, it was like they had the money, but they had a mentality of being broke or never enoughness. We have to save for a rainy day, right? And so now with my daughter, I used to say like, oh no, we can't afford that, or I don't have the money for that. And now it's like, okay, well, is this something that my daughter loves going to Target, right? So it's like, is this something that we need right now? Can we get it maybe later down the line, right? How are you going to use this? Tell me like the reasons that you're gonna like the ways that you're gonna play with it and use this, right? I like really challenging her so it isn't just kind of like mindless
mm,
consumption of things. It's like, what is the intention with this? And maybe that's something you save up for. Maybe it's something that you do chores around the house and you save up your money, right? So it's like these conversations that are intentional, that are abundant. It's not that there isn't money in the bank. It's that, is
mm,
that the money, or is this the thing that we want to spend the money on, right? And
mm.
having those deeper conversations around like consciousness and like where do we want our money to go, where do we want it, what do we want to save it for, or you're right, how can we even attract money? Like my daughter started selling and making these bags and I helped her
Are they
sell them
blind bags?
online.
Are they blind bags or are they
No,
like
they're like
material bags?
these felt bags she makes with like hot glue
Ah,
guns, and she buys the zippers and she like hot glues it on. I sold a bunch of them last year and she wants to start doing that again. But I'm like teaching her like, look, you can create these things and make money. She made over like $100 with one like drop, right? And it was so cool to see her be able to be in that creativity zone of like, oh, I can make money. Oh, it doesn't have to be hard to make money. I can attract money, right? And shifting that narrative that we really grow up with. Yeah.
and it's huge because I've never told my children that we don't have the money because I started getting into the consciousness stuff when they were kind of like 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Now they're like 9 and 11. So I'm kind of like, well, no, I'm not going to buy it for you. And
Yeah.
like a lot of people go, I we don't have the money. I'm like, why are you making excuse? I mean, and I mean, in your case, I totally believe you didn't have the money, but some people go like, no, you can't have it because we don't have the money, and they're putting this narrative on their children. I'm like, no, I'm not buying you that. And they're like,
Yeah.
but I really want it. I said, well, go find the money and do it in a way that is, I'm very direct with my children. If they really want something, and I'd be like, do I want to buy this for them? Like Squishmallows. My daughter loves Squishmallows. I'm
Oh my
like, oh
God, we
my
have so many.
why? But I'm like, she's like, every time we travel, which I travel a lot, she's always like, you buy me a squishmallow. I'm like, do I? And then I'm like, okay. So I buy her a squishmallow. I'm like, this is a part of her childhood. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I'm like, do I want to buy this for you? Is this
Yeah.
something that is a part of your passion? My daughter makes bracelets and blind bags and she sells them at the
Oh.
markets and earrings. And I've got two manifest generators, so they are like
Oh my
literally
gosh.
busy, and I'm just like trying to
Yes.
like direct them and go, well, what do you want to do now? You're allowed to change your mind,
Yeah.
but hey, we just spent $200 on beads. So what are you going to
Right.
do to
Oh
make
my
that money
gosh.
back? So I'm always like playing with
Yeah.
the ideas because in my
So good.
reality with my children, I mean, my parents, there was 5 children, one income, very low income. Mum did the best with the garden and she was a baker and had a fantastic childhood. It was unbelievable, but there was always just enough. And I took on that mentality of always just enough.
Mm,
And now I invest, I know I'm in a mastermind with you, and I invest huge amounts of money in New
yeah.
Zealand. The US dollar is completely different to us,
Yeah.
and it's huge amounts of money. And I'm just like, you've got to get over the whole investment thing and go, if I invest in me first and everything
Yeah.
else after. And that is where success comes in. So everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. One of my
Yeah.
most successful clients, she paid me before she paid her mortgage.
Oh my
And I said,
gosh.
she goes, hey, Vic, I had to make a decision today to pay my mortgage or to pay you. And I paid you first because investing in myself is more important. And I said, you're going to be so
Love
successful. Watch
that.
out, world. And she is. So
Yeah.
we're just
Amazing.
told the opposite way. So we need to let our children invest in themselves. You can be spiritual and be rich and wealthy. And when I tell spiritual
Yeah.
people that sometimes I can see auras and stuff and they shrink. They're like, shum. And I'm like, come back, expand. You're allowed to have
Yeah.
money. You're allowed to get like you're allowed to be a
Hmm.
reader, a Reiki practitioner, a healer, a coach, and bring in huge amounts of money. But the thing is, you've got to be legit. You have to open your heart,
Yeah.
be authentic and real, because there's too many people hustling and saying, I'm
Yeah.
just living my life, I'm just chilling out. They're not. That they're like
Yeah.
hustling, trying to bring in money. So I love what you said during this episode of like, too masculine or too feminine, finding the in between, living your life in sovereignty. Am I
Yeah.
religious? Like in that sense, or am I spiritual? You know what? I'm just me. Like, let's just
Yeah.
come into that.
Exactly. Oh, so good. So many mic drops. I love it. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for sharing your story. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about mediumship and connecting to you, connecting to all of your magic?
Thank you. This has been so much fun.
I
So
know.
yeah, you can find me at Awaken with Victoria Bond. So pretty much Google search Awaken with Victoria Bond. I am quite active on my Facebook community. So I have a Facebook community where I do free readings and all sorts of cool stuff. Also on YouTube, podcast, you name it. There'll be like, I'll send you my link tree so you can just go check it out. I've got free programs, $12 programs, and my signature program is what I call Magnificent Mediumship Certification. So I take people through a 3-month experience to really tap into their gifts and their spirituality, but not in a way of any kind of conformed structure. It's more like, let's
Yeah.
look at your superpowers, your wealth
Mm.
codes, your all the things. So that's what I do. So I just like to be everywhere. So come and check me out.
Amazing. Well, I'll have all of Victoria's links in the show notes so you can just scroll down, look her through her things. Her Instagram will be linked as well. So just reach out to her, tag us on your stories if you watch this episode, you enjoy it. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Victoria, for being here. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks.
Bye.